Alright, welcome back. In this video we will introduce the first definition of trig functions. So make sure you take notes. Definition 1. Trig functions. So there are several ways to look at the different ratios for the 6 trig functions. Here in this first definition for trig functions, we're going to look at the relationship between x, y, and r. Okay? Alright, so if theta is an angle in standard position, and xy is any point on the terminal side, and I'll draw a picture of this so that you have a visual of what we're talking about here. So x and y is any point on the terminal side of theta, but not the origin. Then the 6 trig functions trug. That's when you have a math bug. A trug. Okay. Trig. Trig functions are defined as follows. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw this. So suppose we have our coordinate plane here, x and y, and suppose that we have this angle. Okay, so we have this random angle. Maybe I'll do it in a different color. Okay, so suppose that we have this angle that is formed. So what happens is we can take any point on the terminal side there, and we will call that point xy. And then we know that this here distance from the origin to that point xy is some distance r. Okay? And so here we have our theta. Okay? And so what happens is we have sine theta is equal to y over r. Cosine theta is equal to x over r, and tangent theta is equal to y over x. And what we're doing here is we're dealing with these 3 things, x, y, and r, and we're looking at all the different ratios between x, y, and r. Like we can have x over y, x over r, we can have y over x, y over r, and then we can have r over x and r over y, right? So we have a total of 6 of them. And those different ratios of x, y, and r represent the trig functions, okay? All right, so we have three other ones. We have cosecant theta, which is r over y, secant theta, which is x over r, r over x, and we have cotangent theta, which is x over y. Okay, so we see we have all the different combinations here. Like I said, we have like y over r, y over x. Okay, we have x over r, x over y. Then we have r over y, r over x. Okay, so these are the three trig function, the six trig functions. And of course, x, y, and r are not zero. If they are zero, then these would be undefined. Okay, so x, y, r are not equal to 0, or if they are, then when they are in the denominator, then it will be undefined. Okay, and then we also know that from the previous section that r, which is this distance between these 2 points, right? So r is just the distance formula. So let me write that down here. And r is equal to the distance formula, which is x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared. And that's just going to give us x squared plus y squared. Okay? Okay, so let's take a look at an example here. Let's go ahead and find the 6 trig functions of theta. Find the 6 trig functions of theta if theta is in standard position and the point -2, 3 is on the terminal side of theta. Okay, it always helps to draw it just to kind of make sure you have all the signs correct. All right, so -2, 3. So -2, 3 is right here. Okay? All right, so we know that x is equal to -2. We know y is equal to 3. So we need r. And we know that r is equal to the square root of x squared plus y squared. So that is 4 plus 9. So that is square root of 13. Okay, so we know r is equal to the square root of 13. And once you have all three of these values, then you can come up with all 6 trig functions. Okay, so we know sine theta, which is y over r, is going to be 3 over square root 13. Okay, and then if we rationalize this, again, if you forgot how to rationalize the denominator, you multiply here by square root 13 over square root 13. And that will give us 3 square root 13 on top. And then in the denominator, we'll get square root of 169, which is 13. Okay. Cosine theta is x over r. X is -2. R is square root 13. And same thing here. If you rationalize the denominator here, you can multiply by square root 13 over square root 13. Okay? And that will give us -2 square root 13 over 13, because square root 169 is 13. Okay, and then tangent theta is y over x. Y is negative 2. Nope, y is not negative 2. Y is 3. And x is negative 2. Okay. Okay, and then if you noticed here, the other 3, maybe you notice this, these other 3 here are the reciprocals of these 3. So y over r over y, x over r over x, y over x, x over y. So over here, since I know these 3, I can come up with the other 3 by taking the reciprocal of these 3. Okay, so cosecant theta is y over r. So that's just going to be square root 13 over 3. Cosecant is that one, and then secant theta is the reciprocal of cosine, so square root 3, negative square root 3 over 2. Square root 13, sorry. And then cotangent is x over y, so negative 2 over 3. Okay, so all I did was take the reciprocal of all 3 of these answers. And I took the reciprocal of these 3 answers here before we rationalize, because then if I take the reciprocal of this one, then I'm going to have to rationalize that, which will give you this one, the reciprocal. Okay, so that's how you would get all 6 trig functions. Again, if you're given only x and y, you can easily find r by using the distance formula, which is Pythagorean theorem. And once you have all 3, then you can come up with all 6. Okay? All right, let's see. Let's take a look at this next example. Let's find the 6 trig functions. Find the 6 trig functions of 45 degrees. Okay. So let's go ahead and draw 45 degrees. We looked at special right triangles a couple of sections ago, and we know that if this is a 45-degree angle and I make a triangle here, we know that these 2 are congruent. They're the same length, right? So we can pick any number, whatever I pick here for x. If I pick 0.5, then the y value is also 0.5. If I pick 1, then the y value is also 1. So these 2 are going to be the same. Okay, so if this is 2, this one's 2. If this is 5.7, this is also 5.7. Okay, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to just go ahead and use 1 and 1. And so then here, so that's my x value and that's my y value. So x equals 1, y equals 1, because they're congruent. And then r, if we do the work here, r is the square root of 1 squared plus 1 squared, which is square root of 1 plus 1, which is square root 2. Okay? So we have all 3. We have all 3 values, x, y, and r. So now I can go ahead and find the sine. Sine theta is y over r. Okay, so that is going to be 1 over square root 2. If I rationalize this, I can multiply by square root 2 over square root 2, and that will give me square root 2 over square root 4 is going to be 2. Okay. Cosine theta is x over r, so that's going to be 1 over square root 2. That's going to be the same answer, so square root 2 over 2. And then tangent theta is y over x. So that's going to be 1 over 1, which is just 1. Okay? And then if I do the other three will be the reciprocal of sine, cosine, and tangent. So cosecant theta will be square root 2. Secant theta will be square root 2. And tangent, cotangent theta will be 1. Okay, so these are the 6 trig functions for 45 degrees. Okay, let's take a look at one other one. Let's take a look at a quadrantal angle. And remember, quadrantal angles are angles that land on one of the axes. Okay, so let's do 270 degrees. Let's find the 6 trig functions of 270 degrees. Okay, so when we look at that, that is going to be this angle right over here. Okay? Alright, so again, we just need a point that is somewhere on here. So clearly the x value is going to be 0, and then you can pick a y value here. So like -1 or -2, -3, -4, -5.79. Let's keep it simple. I'll pick -1. Okay, so we know that our x value is 0. Our y value is -1. And our r value, if you work this out, you can probably tell what it is already. 0 squared plus -1 squared. And that is going to give me 0 plus 1, which is square root 1, which is just 1. Okay? We have all 3 values. We have the x, the y, and the r, so we can find the 6 trig functions. So starting with sine of 270 degrees is going to be y over r. So that is going to be -1 over 1, which is -1. Cosine of 270 degrees is going to be x over r. So x is 0, r is 1, so that is going to be just 0. And then tangent 270 degrees will be y over x. So y is -1, x is 0, so this is going to be undefined. Okay, 0 in the denominator is undefined. Okay, so let's get the other 3 by taking the reciprocal of these 3 answers that we just found. Alright, so cosecant theta is going to be the reciprocal, which is just going to be -1. Secant theta will be the reciprocal, which is 1 over 0. So here, this will be undefined. Okay, and then cotangent theta, theta being 270 degrees, is going to be 0 over -1, and this will be 0. Okay? Alright, so that's how you find the 6 trig functions if you're dealing with these values right here, x, y, and r. So this is our first definition of trig functions. Alright, stay tuned for part 2. If you have any questions, make sure you email me or text message me.